Hey, welcome to Small Towns Unscripted. Maribel Cruz. Maribel Cruz. This is Nicole Turner. I'm Russ McClellan. This is Small Towns Unscripted. That's Hector behind the camera.
Yep.
Thanks for showing up. You know, we had Chris on.
I did, yes. I listened to the podcast. I saw him. I was excited for him. He was excited. He really, really enjoyed being on.
Yeah, he did an amazing job.
Yeah, thank you.
I mean, he's just authentic, so.
I don't think he knew that's what was going to happen when he asked me to do the podcast at his barber shop.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I'll do it on one condition. You do the podcast.
Yeah. I didn't know that part, so.
No,
I'm excited. To be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Yeah, we had a podcast last week with Kyle and, the community center, like a few weeks before that, I was at the gala.
Yeah.
And I was telling Kyle on the podcast, I was embarrassed that I didn't understand everything that had gone on for so many years with so many friends of mine that were in the middle of this commitment, and so much had been accomplished and so many challenges and that they'd overcome at this point. And I was just like, wow, it's funny that sometimes you can be kind of right in the middle of the storm and you live in the town, but that's one of the things we're hoping to do with this podcast is just help people get their story out.
Yeah.
In whatever form that is, and maybe get to know each other a little better instead of each other, and maybe unite a community. And, we love it when like kids and grandkids are like, oh, mom was on a podcast, or, like grandpa's on a podcast.
Yeah.
So I appreciate you being here. And one of the things we do is we kind of just, in part, is get to know each other. Is like go back in time a little bit sometimes and kind of go, you're here now, but how did we get here? Where did we all come from? Where was your parents from? What's the story behind the scenes with your family?
Gosh, well, my story started. My parents are immigrants to this country, so originally from Mexico, and I was born in the United States, so first generation Mexican American, and. My parents are wonderful people, super hardworking. They raised three. I've got three older brothers, and then myself and a younger sister. We moved to Washington State because my dad. My parents had actually. I was born in El Paso, Texas, so I'm a Texan at heart. I was telling Hector, right. Texan at heart, but have lived really in Washington State now more than I've actually lived in Texas. So. Have grown my webbed feet, should have grown my webbed feet by now, but just still have roots in Texas because our family's still there, and I have lots of aunts and uncles. My mom is the eldest of 10.
Wow.
Yeah,
that's a big family.
Oh my gosh, but like she has a lot of brothers, siblings, and then her, all of the kids had a lot of kids, and those kids have had kids. I think my grandmother now has great grandkids, like in the order of magnitude of like, I don't know, in the 20s. I mean, it's our family is huge. So always grew up, in a really big family, and around a lot of people and family and community. So big dinners, food. It's kind of been the center of
a lot of good food. I bet.
Yeah,
I bet.
My mom's an amazing cook. And it's funny because I never really considered myself, but the older I get, the more I find myself like, that's how I connect with people. It's like, I just want to feed you. And that's how I show love. And,
I love it.
Chris will say that he gets the brunt of that, and that's why he, is the way he is. And, so, and I just say, it's because I love you so much.
Yeah, perfect in every way.
And I'm sure he enjoys and accepts the love.
He does. And so, grew up, like I said, have three older brothers. We moved to Washington. My dad had got an opportunity to work at Boeing, and so he worked there until he retired. So about 30 years with Boeing. So we moved to kind of that Mukilteo area, and I vowed that I was never going to live in the state of Washington. As soon as I graduated, I was going to go back to Texas. Moved here. Really, I think it was the last couple of weeks of the 6th grade, and so ironically met Chris. It was really the kind of the 7th grade is when we, I think, officially met each other.
Wow.
Just had told him. And then when we started, when he started to talk to me in high school, I said, buddy, I don't really think it's going to work out because I'm not going to stick around here. So I'm headed back to Texas, and I just don't want to break your heart. And so he just kept pursuing me, and I finally was like, fine, okay, well, I guess we'll try it out, but you should probably plan on moving. But that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to, and we stuck around, and yeah, we've been in Washington ever since.
So what was your childhood like?
Gosh, my childhood was, I think in hindsight, pretty amazing. I mean, I think, my parents have been married for 55 years. They're still together to this day. My dad was and continues to be just an extremely hardworking man, quiet, not a man of a whole lot of words, right. But really shows kind of his love for his family through actions. I feel like I got a lot of that, just that responsibility over kind of relationship mentality from him, and that has served me well in lots of ways. I think it's created kind of stability in my life, but also just kind of a challenge in that it's not all about responsibility. Sometimes the relationship is more important, and so those are areas that I've worked in, but I appreciate that about my dad and my parents, that they really, kind of impressed on us that like, you take care of your family by working hard and making sure that your responsibilities are well taken care of. And, so that was how we grew up. We got to kind of do what everyone else in our generation got to do, which was like run the streets until the lights came on.
Latchkey.
And latchkey. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily consider myself a latchkey kid though, because my mom didn't work while
she was the rock.
While we were growing up. She didn't really start working until my little sister was kind of in high school, and then she went to work for Boeing as well. And so she was always home. She sent us off to school and kind of took care of the household. But I just remember being kind of always surrounded by a lot of family. Whether that was my grandmother who lived with us, or an aunt that lived with us, or my parents we grew up Catholic, but my parents were involved in church a lot. So we were always around people and other family members, and it was always loud.
Yeah.
I just remember that it was always loud, and there was always food. And I didn't know this at the time, but we were pretty poor. But it didn't feel poor.
Right. Yeah. There's pride in work, and you made things happen.
Yeah.
And you made it work. How many siblings did you have?
I have 3 older brothers and a younger sister, so there were 5 of us.
5, yeah. So your mom cut it in half from what she had. She had 10 in her family.
Yeah.
We'll just cut that in half.
Yeah.
Maybe it's solid.
Yeah. I don't know. I think she may have had more if she could have, But yeah, we ended up, her and my dad ended up having 5, but again, like I said, we were always like had cousins around, so there may have been an immediate 5 in our family, but there was always a cousin that was staying with us, or 2 cousins that were staying with us, and my mom being the eldest, she was always kind of. There was times when she was even responsible for some of her siblings, and so while they were aunts and uncles to us, they were her brothers and sisters that she was still,
Isn't that, it's kind of. Are you familiar with the story of how they immigrated to the U.S.? Are you familiar with the history there?
Generally,
because I've always found that it's an American dream for a lot of people to come to this country, and we're made up of Heinz 57 sauce around the world, right? Like we come from everywhere in the world to make this country what it is. So I love the courage that it must take, especially when it's first generation, to say, hey, look, I'm going to abandon this life and this place for a better life, and then I'm going to have the courage to pack my family or whoever to get to America and to try to live that American
Well, it
dream.
sounds
So I'm
like
always
a lot
curious
of the
about
family
that.
members did it too with them.
Yeah, and I think, for my parents specifically, it was kind of like it was kind of a step, as a step progress. So unlike some that, just take that leap of faith like all together, right? They pack up from the country. For my parents, they moved from, their small towns in Mexico, and then they came to a border town. And so both of my parents kind of came to Juarez, which is the border town to El Paso. And so they really kind of lived in Juarez for some time. Their families kind of lived in Juarez, but then would work in El Paso, and they kind of did the back and forth border crossing for a lot of years, and then did that for many years until they became naturalized citizens. And
It's just such a cool story. And to live that American dream, and then to work for an aerospace company and airplanes and Boeing. At that time, the Boeing company was amazing.
Oh, and it was a dream come true for my my dad. I mean, he felt so honored and privileged to have been able to secure a job like that. I mean, he took pride. I mean, my dad never missed a day of work. It truly was an honor for him to work for that company, and he did it religiously for over 30 years.
Wow, good for him.
Yeah, so pretty exciting. I will credit him also just for my own kind of deep-seated roots in that kind of loyalty to an employer. When I got my corporate job, I started to work for the city of Seattle. And so, man, I was with the city for 21 years.
Really?
Which is crazy because I'm only 20. So it's really hard to imagine that as a baby I would have started right out of the womb.
You got your dad's work ethic immediately. You didn't have to wait a day.
Day over 23, I promise.
Yeah.
But that was just something that was instilled in us, is really just that that loyalty is important, and hard work is important, and so.
What did you do at the city of Seattle?
I worked in transportation, so I'm a transportation nerd, I would say. Kind of fell into that. My sister actually had gotten a job at the transportation department, and we were out of college in her 20s, and she's younger, so she was a little bit younger, but she had gotten a job kind of in office administration, and she just said, hey, the city's hiring, and would you be interested? And I had been nannying actually for Angie Coleman, and but had been ready, and I had actually gotten a degree in computer networking, and which is where I kind of had thought that I was the path that I was going to take, and but the tech industry had not quite picked up in the way that I had thought it was going to. In addition to, I had realized after I'd gotten my degree that computer networking was really not what I had thought it was going to be. Of course, when I looked in the paper, because back in those days, that's where you found your information. When I looked in the paper, I was just looking for whatever was going to pay the most. Right. I mean, that was the marker, and I was like, oh, computers. Yeah, that's what I'm going to go do. I'm going to get a degree in computers. And then I realized real quick that I did not want to be in server rooms. They were cold. They were lonely. Yeah. And they buzzed a lot. So I was like, I really like people. So this is probably not going to be the right fit for me. But again, my parents had kind of instilled that you start something and you finish it.
That was very common in that generation. I mean, all across the board, whether you're a Teamster, whether you went to work at a factory, whatever you did, you were there.
Yeah.
And it was a 40, 50-year game sometimes. I had an Uncle Shorty that worked at the dam building Grand Coulee Dam for 45 years, something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who does that now?
Now you're taught to leave a place every 2 to 5 years. And if you're there 5, you better be jumping ship soon.
Yeah, you're not moving up.
Yep. But minimum 2, you can start moving.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that's working out for everybody right now.
I know.
We'll see.
I
get it, though. I get why people would do it. For
and
sure.
I think what I'll say to that is, like, employers are also not the same, right?
Right.
I think on both sides of the table, the landscape has changed. But I do think that what is missing, and what I think, Chris and I have tried to share with our own children, is that there is value in loyalty, and there is value in consistency, because some of what you get from that is that you learn when you stick it out. Sometimes it's not what you stick it out, the topic that you're sticking out, but just the fact that you have started something and completed it.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's the lesson.
Of course. Yeah, it's in the process.
It's in the process.
Yeah.
And sometimes that's far more important.
Yeah. Well, and when you're in a smaller town like this, you're probably going to work for more of a smaller company.
Right.
You're not working for large companies as much. I mean, you might if you work remote or something.
Yeah.
But most of the time, those are the people that really try to jump ship every 2 to 5 years. But when you're working for somebody who is a smaller company, or you are the smaller business yourself, like that's where you have that still traditional loyalty and want to build that leadership style and stuff.
Yeah.
There's so many options now that weren't always available too, with the way the world works today with Zoom and Microsoft Teams.
Yep.
Now you can, we're seeing it here in real estate. We talk about it a lot. We have a new species of buyer, and that's that younger, I'm going to sell my house or condo. I can make $200,000 a year from home. 28 years old, and I'm like, who are these people?
Yeah.
For 30 years of my career, they said if I could make money in Chelan, I'd move there, and voila, COVID happens and forced adoption of tech, and now you have options.
Right.
So it's just a wildly challenging time.
It is.
For a lot of people, because that gentrification that's legit, people love it here, and we talk about it a lot, but it's a double-edged sword. It comes with some great people and some amazing change, but it also comes with some affordability issues, and prices get driven up because demand's higher, and it's not an easy subject.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It really is. Yeah. I think on all fronts, and it impacts everybody. I mean, I think we're seeing that across the board, and I know we'll get into the community center.
Yeah, for sure.
But
Excited
I think, for me and my heart around the community center, it's really to while all of those things are factors and all of those things are happening in our community, though, where is that one place where everyone can come to, and no matter where you are on that spectrum, feel like you have a place to. To be in a place that you can call your community center, that is accessible and that is as free as possible, but that we create a space like that for as many people as possible.
Yeah, I'm excited to talk to you about that.
Yeah,
that's a beautiful story that I've just been privy to not that long since the gala, right?
Well, and I wanted to say that when you said that you were embarrassed, please don't be, because I think that the truth is that this is an evolving story, and even if you had been trying to keep up to speed with what's been happening, the story is still being written, and and everything is evolving, and so whatever you may have heard or may have known has evolved, right? It's an evolution, and so I just tell people just welcome to where we're at right now, because that's just the way it is, and so we try our best to keep sharing information, but the truth is that what I say today is what we know of right now, but some of these things we hadn't anticipated, we hadn't factored in, we couldn't have known. COVID, nobody knew about that and what impacts that was going to have.
True.
So sometimes you just can't, you can't be in everything. Everything.
No, I just admire the courage and the conviction and the persistence of the people that surrounded themselves with each other.
Yeah.
And had a dream, and then like most dreams, it's real easy to be skeptical, and it's real, especially when life throws curveballs at you. And I talked to Kyle about this on our podcast, and I was like, I think that as in the case of most things that are beautiful and magical, they're not predictable.
Yeah.
If they were predictable, they wouldn't be as magical or as beautiful, and so hence why most people don't do things. Their own life, their own way of looking at the world and being guarded, rightfully so in a lot of cases, their own comfort zone that they're going to stay in. They have a hard time understanding how people will go do something without a guaranteed outcome, a guaranteed certainty. But in reality, I mean, we talk about it in our firm a lot. There's no such thing. I mean, the reality is we can want certainty as much as we want oxygen and need oxygen, but life doesn't work that way.
Right.
There's one curveball after another curveball after another curveball.
The only thing you can be certain of is that there's nothing to be certain of.
Yeah.
100%.
One of my favorite guys is Yogi Berra. I don't know if you know who he is. He was a New York baseball coach, and he was famous for all these quotes that he'd say, like he'd say, "You'd be a lot better if you weren't so bad," things like that. And then one I love the most is he said something like, "Predicting things is very, very difficult, especially about the future."
Yeah.
Other than that, it's easy.
Yep.
And that's where I was talking. We were talking to Kyle, and Brooke and Scott Hutchison and all the other amazing people, yourself on the board, and how, of course, from the outside looking in, you're not going to understand what the power of that team can accomplish if you stick together and if you stay loyal to each other and help each other, pick each other up when it's tough and, a lot of sleepless nights. And yet, at the end of the day, that's what you look at. Like, where are we now?
Yeah.
To your point, like, where are we today?
Yeah.
Today's a pretty good day for you guys. So I just want to applaud your efforts.
Thank you.
That's the part I was embarrassed about. I was like, I have all my friends are doing this stuff. What was I? Have my head in the sand over here.
We didn't get into specifics, but based off my timeline from talking with Kyle, how long has it been in the works to get to even this point? It's been at least 6 years, 5 years, 7 years?
This is where,
what is it?
Yeah, definitely.
Because it was before COVID.
Yeah, it was definitely before COVID. And I should pull up my phone because I'm terrible with dates. But yeah, definitely before COVID. And they, like, the timeline gets a little squishy because they had this, and Kyle probably shared, but right, they had kind of had this idea and then but when it really started to form and when the 7 Acres Foundation kind of formed, I think that was like 7 years ago. I think that's about the timeline that when it really started to take shape and, things started to really kind of form together.
Yeah. So it'll probably be a decade, right? When all of it's said and done.
Yeah.
When everything, from this moment you probably had the vision until the end. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And since we're on it, what is your role there exactly? What is when did you get involved and what is the role that you play?
Yeah, so I got involved, I think it was about 4 years ago, 4.5 years ago. Ray Evans reached out to me, and Ray had been kind of, I don't know what the exact title of her role was, but I would say she was kind of working as a bit of an executive director for the board, but trying to make the project just viable. So this was before, this was kind of in the days of the land acquisition and, trying to form the 501(c), the nonprofit, and just trying to make things viable, basically. And when those things kind of got pulled together and she was able to, and they were able to start construction, and she started to realize that, like, oh, this is, things are really starting to happen. She reached out to me. I mentioned that I was with the city of Seattle. I love transportation, but I have a communications background. That's what I got another degree in. And they quickly realized that they were going to need to start kind of engaging the community. And so she just said, hey, Maribel, we need to start engaging the community, and we, in particular, need to start engaging the Hispanic community. And I know that this is kind of what you do, and so would you be interested in helping us? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. We love Chelan. I love doing this, and so I kind of just started to do it on what I would call kind of a consulting basis. Like, here's what I think you should do, and maybe try this approach, and this is probably a better way to, ask folks for their opinion about these certain things and topics. And so that lasted for about a year, and then I quickly realized that it was really difficult to have conversations about something as important as a community center without being part of the community. And when I was coming back and forth, and Ray just said, this is getting real, like real. And she's like, would you ever consider moving and like basically taking over and becoming the executive director? And I just said, I don't know, Ray. Now it was COVID, and I just said, I don't know, Ray. Like, I'd love to. I mean, I love Chelan, but I've got a career that I'm invested in. We've got kids that are about to start high school. I've got a family, like my parents, and we don't have any real, any family in Chelan at least. We've got family, but no real family. So I just said, I don't know, Ray. Went back and talked to Chris about it, and we prayed about it, thought about it, probably for too long, and then I thought about it for too long. Chris, I think, didn't think about it for too long, and he was like, yeah, and then I was like, no, and then I just had this conversation with God, and I said, Lord, if these 5 things, if you can make these 5 things, affordable housing was one of them, like just a house. I mean, I thought there's some basic needs. I'm a really pragmatic person, and so I needed a practical, I needed a roadmap. And so I said to God, if we're going to do this, if we're going to uplift our family, if I'm going to step away from this career that I've been loyal and committed to for this, to do this, which is not guaranteed, is part of a nonprofit, is like, sure, shovels are in the ground, but it's just all very loosey-goosey.
Yeah.
Help me understand the roadmap here, and at least with these 5 things, show me that these can happen, and man, one by one, they just kept falling into place, and I just thought, oh, dang it. Be careful what you ask for, because
should ask for 6.
Well, and so we sat the kids down and we were like, what do you guys think? And of course at the time they were like, yeah, let's do it, because we were all locked in our houses, and we just said, okay, this is what we're gonna do, and packed our bags in May, and rented a U-Haul, right? and made our way over as full-time residents, and have not regretted that decision, not one bit, since that day.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
it was funny to listen to Chris's story coming out of high school, and different. I love the line he said about, you said, we're not having tequilas and tacos.
That was a shock.
Yeah, that was.
Really, that was. We were different people. We were different people then, and and definitely was looking forward to tacos and tequila.
Yeah.
That's funny.
So
he's hilarious, I think.
Yeah.
But so you're the executive director? Is that the title?
So long way of saying I get the honor of and privilege to be the executive director of the community center.
Well, that's exciting times for you. Yeah.
It's I often describe it as the most rewarding job I've ever had. It's also been a labor of love. There's a lot of things that I think that go unseen and unshared about what it takes to run a community center. Now we're in a really interesting time where if I thought it was hard before we opened the doors to the community center, it's become even more of an opportunity and challenge now, because we're going to re-embark into construction. We've got an operating building, and so operating a building of that size with that much different use, mixed use. It's a lot of. There's just a lot to think about. Safety, security, need, desire, opportunity. It's fundraising, down to needs like toilet paper and, like just the practical stuff that happens. So it's, but nothing all of that kind of gets washed to the side when I walk through the doors and there are kids playing in the play area and there are, guys gathered around a table having coffee, at 7:30 in the morning, and, kids running upstairs to go to the Boys and Girls Club, before school or after school, and just hearing the noise. I mean, for some months I was in that building by myself, and 44,000 square feet is a lot of space to be in a building by yourself.
Hello.
And I'm sure you're like, okay, I gotta trust in the vision.
Yeah. And so being pulled, as you can probably imagine, when you're a nonprofit and you're having, financial challenges, and and you're trying to raise money, and you find yourself feeling desperate at times, like especially when you have to make hard decisions. And so needing to stay true to what that mission and vision is and continues to be has been a just something that we've had to remain steadfast in and remind ourselves, like, why are we doing this? Because it becomes really easy to sometimes, when you're in those positions, to just want to be like, you know what, let's just rent out the space, to the highest, to the highest number. Well, that's never been the mission and vision, right?
Yeah,
so
that's true.
Faith over fear.
Yeah.
And they're both around.
Yeah, lots of faith over fear.
Yeah.
So.
And the commitments of so many people that, activity begets activity, investment begets investment.
Yeah.
The word of mouth is sometimes slow to get moving, but it seems like you guys are in a very good place and a very exciting time.
Yeah.
And that maybe the rough waters of the uncertainty are behind you a little bit.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Life has a tendency to throw curveballs. So.
For now. I mean, with this, I think one of the other things that we've really learned is like enjoy the season that you're in, right? And just enjoy the season that you're in. Take a breath, prepare for the next, right? Because you don't know. And many times don't wish away whatever season you're in, because you don't know what the next season will be.
Yeah.
The good old days are right now.
Yeah. And we'll bask in them. Like I am, you bask in them because you don't know what the next season will be.
Well, congratulations, because that is a total takes every single person to make that team work. And like any good organization, it's amazing to watch, and it's been amazing for me to learn about all the friends I have doing it, including you.
Thank you.
It's exciting, and I'm hoping to help. Hopefully this podcast helps a little bit, spread the word, and hopefully we find a way to help contribute more in the future to make this thing continue to flow. So whatever we can do, but it's just exciting to watch. I'm curious about going back in time when, Angie and I were friends growing up and played ball at college together.
Yeah.
So when did you meet her, and how did you connect from Mukilteo to Chelan? So
Angie was.
I was the teacher, right?
Yeah,
that's right.
She was
Kristen tells me.
She was our math teacher.
Yeah.
I don't remember if she was a middle school math teacher for me, but definitely high school math. She taught algebra, and I'm terrible at math, which is why I went into communications. But anyway, I struggled. I got through algebra, but I hated it. And so one of the trades that we did was, I was like, I'll be your TA if you will give me math credit, your teacher's assistant. If could this replace a math credit? I needed a half a credit or something. She was like, yes, if you're listening on the lessons, I will give you a credit for a teacher's assistant. So I was her teacher's assistant in junior year and senior year. So got to know her, really well, obviously in that teacher-student capacity. But our senior year, she got pregnant with Chelan, and had gotten married and got pregnant with Chelan, and Chelan was born in April, and I was getting ready to graduate that June, and so she ended up taking her maternity leave, and I had run into her at the medical office, and so we ran into each other, and she was like, "Oh, Maribel, oh my gosh, how are you? How's the rest of the school year going?" And I was like, "Your substitute teacher's terrible. It's going good. We're excited to finish." She said, "Well, what's your plan after high school?" And I had been working at a restaurant, and I said, I need to find a new job. I need to figure out what I'm going to do after high school, and what career I'm going to pick. And she said, "Well, are you?" And I said, "But I need a new job." And she said, "Well, have you ever considered nannying?" And I said, "Get paid to watch children?" I mean, I told you guys, I grew up in a huge family, so children were always part of this, the makeup of our family. And so I said, "Get paid to watch a baby? Like, I can do that." Like, yeah. And she knew that, she knew about my family. And so she said, "Yeah." And that's really how that relationship had started. And so I spent the summer with her watching Chelan, who just was a couple of months old. And that relationship just continued to grow over time. And Ange was, unbeknownst to me, this is sometimes when you're young, you're just kind of oblivious. Yeah. But I did not realize how young Angie really was as a teacher in high school. She was, they're all
she
and I, well, she and I are, really only 10 years apart. And so she wasn't that much. I mean, now I'm like, oh, we're sisters. Like, I mean, this is not, but when you're in high school, you think, oh, your teacher, they're way older than you. So anyway, so she was doing what she, was doing. And Chelan was essentially like adopted into my family. Like he calls my mom and dad grandma and grandpa. I mean, my parents, my parents had or my daughter actually had a quinceañera. We had a quinceañera, I guess 2 years ago now. But and Chelan came to that. My parents were there, and I mean, you would have thought that the president of the United States walked through the doors. I mean, my parents just immediate tears, and cool. I mean, they hadn't seen him in a couple of years, and they were just like, "Oh, Jay," and it was just it became a really beautiful just dynamic and relationship that we all kind of built together. And so Chelan he did not need me. He was way too old, but we kind of kept this relationship just because of that closeness that we had in that relationship that we'd established. And Ange, I started to do stuff for Ange that, I mean, Jay really, like I said, he did not need a nanny at 10 years old, but we had built this relationship. Right. And so Ange, I was just helping Ange with, anything and everything, and going to school at the same time. So that gave me the flexibility that I needed to do that. And then finally I was like, hey, I kind of got to cut the cord. Like, I got to start my own family, I need to probably start a career. And she was like, yeah, you do. I know, I get it, but I'm going to really miss you. And I was like, I'm going to miss you. We spent every summer in Chelan.
My kids were probably over there a lot.
Yeah.
Because Mason and Jay were in the same grade. And Angie and I coached them a lot together. So you probably saw my son.
I'm sure I did. I mean, like I said, I mean, Jay, it was like he didn't need us to watch him anymore, but we would come up to, Don and Lynn's house and off Spader Bay and spend the summers here and do the lake. I mean, I often tell people that I was oblivious. I did not appreciate Chelan for what everybody appreciates, because it was just where we went for the summer, because that's where the family was. And so never thought of it as a tourist destination that it is. It was just where we went, every summer. And so my family, the Colemans, such generous people, they opened up their homes to my own my extended family. And so my families, we would spend the summers here as well. And so that was really how we, what kind of rooted us here as well.
That's cool.
Well, Ray Evans is Angie's sister that she was talking about at the community center.
Yeah.
She got remarried, so they got married. So
Ray and Chris, and so so that's been fun. So, and then and now we've all got kids that are about the same age. Ray has Bailey, and Bailey and Emmy, my daughter, they're the same age, and so just, in the boys. And so, it's always kind of fun to go back and just realize like how much connection that we all have together. And
so does it feel different now? You move here year round. You've been here since May.
Yeah.
Kind of got time to like get grounded.
Yeah.
And the kids are in school, and it sounds like your one son plays baseball now at Spokane.
Yep.
That's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
And so how do you feel about living here now and your perception of what Chelan was when you were even coming just for the summers?
Yeah. I would say I thought about this question actually over the weekend, and I would say that my perception has absolutely changed, but I think that it has changed in a way of where, and you've talked about this on your podcast. I don't feel like a local. I don't consider myself a local. I never tell people that. But I'm very protective about Chelan, and I'm very protective about what people how people talk about Chelan, and so I just feel like I want people to. I just find myself being protective about it. Like, hey, don't, and whether that's like I don't want garbage to be, I want its uniqueness and like all of the things that I love about Chelan, the small town feel, the quaintness, the quietness at times. Yes, we have periods of times when it gets kind of crazy and you don't go to Safeway and all of those things.
Yeah.
But like all of the things that everyone loves about Chelan, I'm very protective about wanting to keep it that way because I think that's what makes it so special. And so even though I don't consider myself being from here, like I want to keep those things intact because I think that's what makes it so special.
Yeah, we do talk about that word a lot. At least I do.
Yeah. So do you think that for it to be local, you have to have come from here?
No, and in fact, the longer I'm here, the more I realize that there's a lot of people that aren't actually from here.
Yeah.
I mean, and how could there be, right? Because the truth is that as more time passes, there's probably less and less people that actually are from here, right? So I don't think that's the case, but I think that if I were to define somebody that's local, it's that somebody cares as much as somebody that's been here their whole life.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. And I also believe that we're talking often about a definitional problem with words, meaning on one hand, I think when people say that person's 4 generations or 5 generations deep, they helped build this town from scratch, that's a local. I think we might also, maybe if we just took the word local out of it, we just say, hey, we respect the people that built the town. And not that we have to pay homage to them and get on our knees and all that, but we admire the pioneers that, were the first guys that planted apple trees or the first people that, literally homesteaded here.
Yeah.
And that's one thing. That's respect, right? Not paying homage to them, but respecting the historical perspective of their family. At the same time, if we want to use the word local to define people that care about their community, that live here full time, maybe, that are good people, then what's the problem with that? That's where my philosophy comes in. I really don't see it as a polarizing word if we can describe what we're talking about, because those two things are not mutually exclusive.
Yeah.
You can have respect for those. My grandmother came on a covered wagon when she was 7 from Missouri. And so did a lot of other people, man. There's some wild stories about how people got here.
Yeah.
And I respect the hell out of that.
Yeah.
And, the Courtney family in Stehekin was like 7th generation.
Well, and Rod Cool's
was Rod Cool's
grandfather.
That was a wild story.
Yeah. He came over here at 11 years old from like Arkansas
Oklahoma
or something.
Missouri or something.
Yeah. He
Oklahoma.
traveled on a train to Seattle and then hiked to Chelan. Him and his horse.
Him and his horse on the train.
At 11 years old.
Oh.
Found a spot, said, I'm going to homestead here, sent back for his family. Then his family came.
Think about finding your spot. Means he came over the Cascades by himself on a horse.
Wow.
Yes.
To Manson, and then sent for his 3 younger brothers. They came out here. He had homesteaded at 11. Then finally the parents came.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
At 11.
At 11. Which, I mean, we know our 11-year-olds
right
nowadays. It's a little different.
Yeah, I'm thinking of my 11-year-old nephew.
Can't even use a microwave sometimes.
No.
So,
make some popcorn.
Yeah.
And so therein lies my conversation when I like to share it, because I want people to feel inclusive in their community, and they desired and appreciated. And I don't believe the number of minutes you have lived here is a prerequisite to that.
What I've thought of the last, between, obviously this conversation and then the conversation with Kyle, which is over the last, almost 52 podcasts we've done and talking about local and talking about all of that, it seems like there's a common goal that everybody wants, which is just to keep the heart of their tradition of a small town. And I think that this concept maybe can feel polarizing, because we just want to make sure that those traditions stay true, where we have a community and we're building people and we can all call our neighbor if something happens, right? Or if something horrible happens with your kids, everybody's there to help you at the exact same time. It's like those small town traditions everybody just really wants to hold on to.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what it all gets rooted to.
There's definitely a fear of change, and you don't have to look very far to see communities that have changed radically.
Yeah.
And there's some real issues there, and there's some real complex issues with housing and real complex issues with the economy and the haves and the have-nots, so to speak, and gentrification and the challenges that go around that. That's a very complex problem. My whole take has always been if we have a conversation about something where we can find some commonality, then we can respect each other with some empathy.
Yeah.
And then we can once we find commonality, which typically is what this podcast is trying to do, is once we know someone's story, and then you know my story, then I know you instead of you, and you know me instead of me a little bit, then maybe we can find that where those stories overlap, and that we have some commonality, and that we want the best for people. And vast majority of people, in my opinion, are very, very good people. Now, the challenges come in a lot of different methods, right? The government is a big part of this situation, and the government is complex, and the capitalism is complex, and supply and demand, Econ 101, it's complex. I mean, there's some really interesting challenges that we're behind the scenes. A lot of people don't know this about our real estate development company, but we're working very, very hard to create some really incredible, sustainable solutions. And it's not these are easy things to solve.
Right.
So it takes a community to understand it. And we're excited at some point where we can unveil some of the work we're doing behind the scenes in order to create these communities for essential workers, which to me, essential workers, I also think we have in real estate anyway, we have a definitional problem with the word affordable housing. Yeah. Because what does that mean? I mean,
you think of the housing trust and stuff like that.
Yeah, or Habitat for Humanity, and really what we focus on.
What's your definition of affordable?
Right, because everybody has their own bracket.
Right.
Where I go to is I use the word essential workers, which is cops, teachers, nurses, hospitality, all the people that a community needs to function, that sadly are in that missing middle where they make too much money typically to get the government assistance, and they don't make enough money in an open market environment to compete with the kind of cash that some people can make, and now can make it from home, which has made the gentrification challenge even more acute. Before, I often talk about it was second homes, retirees, and investors. The local, the essential workers had been kind of priced out quite a while ago. Well, then we add a primary resident buyer that can work from home, that can be of any age. Wow. Yeah. Now they're selling their homes at 28, 29, 30, and they're bringing kids, and that has changed the dynamic since COVID. That we never had that buyer before. And if we did, they were very specialized tech people, or they could work from home, but they knew how to bounce signals off satellites and stuff. Well, now, now it's, yoga instructors, the doctors, the counselors, the headhunters. I mean, it's the whole world market is now available with high-speed internet. And then you add Starlink, and you don't even need to be in the town. You can be up on the mountain. Right. So it's it's a crazy evolution. And so when we think about these challenges, they're complex, and it's real. And the reality is, if we can agree that the ostrich approach to solving problems doesn't work, because if change is inevitable, then we can't just put our head in the sand and go,
yeah,
you can't see me, so I can't see you, so you can't see me, and
Yeah.
it'll go away by itself, and it won't. And that's where we can see some of these other communities that did not think about this, did not unite in a way that doesn't mean you agree on everything. That never happens.
Right.
But we respect.
Yeah.
We can get to a place where we can agree on something and have a common foundation. Is my goal. I mean, this is just a goal.
Yep.
That where through some creative stuff like the community center is a great example of a way to unite people.
Yeah.
To come together with a common vision and combine strengths to achieve a common goal, to where something magical can happen. And if we all have this ability to have conversations and get to know the root of what's going on, instead of just going, I don't like you, you're changing my town and you're disrespecting me. Like, okay, well, maybe that's true. And some, not everybody's a cool dude. Sometimes there are those people.
Yeah.
But that's going to happen whether we're, a little or big. And all I know is that tunnel keeps getting busy. Yeah. And unless we put tanks at the top of it and stop them, they're continuing to come.
Yep.
So what are we going to do next? And this is, and I'm not saying I even have all the answers. I'm just saying that it starts with a conversation rather than judgment.
Yep.
And hopefully if we know each other, we're less judgmental.
I agree. And, I think what complicates things even further is technology. And man, that makes me sound really old, but
I'm walking uphill to school both ways in the snow.
Yes.
Every day I say that now.
Yeah.
I'm that guy already.
But it really does, because it's, I think that conversation that you're talking about, right? I think that people are confused that because they're having that conversation online, that they are seeing that as like the conversation, but they're not realizing that conversation is usually one way, and many times it's happening in like what do they call those, like a echo chamber, right? They're only hearing what they want to hear, or they're only hearing what the algorithm is allowing them to hear.
Right.
And so technology really has I feel like has made allowing conversations to happen, because while all of these things are really complex, the government, the economy, I mean, all of those things are true and real and probably bigger and worse. But all of those things have existed since the beginning for a long time. I think what is changing the landscape for us in this century and in this time is that technology is confusing people, because it's just it is taking away the opportunity for you and I to sit around a table and have a conversation in front of one another, because it doesn't give people the chance for you to speak, for me to listen, for me to speak, and for you to listen, and for there not to be so much noise that is happening around us. And I think that's really a disservice to our community and to our, big or small, but it's becoming a disservice to our society. It's becoming a disservice to our kids. It's becoming a disservice to our communities. And Chelan and Manson and Chelan Valley, we're no exception to that. And we just keep, it just keeps happening. I mean, I personally am having to give myself more and more space away from technology than get closer to it. And if that's probably not serving me super well in my, in my day-to-day life with what I do at the community center, but I would rather, I tell people, just call me. I mean, just call me, because I'm not going to go look at the comments. I'm not going to go look at, the whatever gets posted. I'm not, because it's just not the place where I want to get my information.
Yeah.
I would rather run into you at the grocery store and hear you say whatever it is that you're going to say than hear it online.
Yeah, well, so often it's reactionary.
It is.
And they're just emotional. And they just, and I get it. You have to understand and empathize where they're coming from, what happened to their life, what happened to their day. And they just see something they don't benefit from, and it triggers pain, it triggers frustration, so they zap you because they can get away with it from the bleacher seats. I mean, and there's no consequence. So, I know a lot of the people that, that are hammering on certain topics, and they're good people. For the most part, they're all good people. They're just like frustrated about life, and sometimes they have an opinion without any, to your point, there's no conversation about a Q&A.
Right.
You know, because being curious and being skeptical is good.
It is, absolutely.
You know? And that keeps people honest.
Is.
Yeah.
And in fact, I mean, I think it's not good, but it's necessary.
Yeah.
Like we should, you know, I mean, and I'm not just talking about the community center. I mean, I'm talking about generally, like we should be asking questions. I want, you know, if something doesn't feel, I mean, it's like see something, say something, you know, we don't want to lose that either.
Right. That's America.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole idea is to argue with each other.
Yeah. I mean,
but have respectful debates, you know, like chiseled, respectful debates. Where do we have common ground? Where do we agree to disagree? And then you try to sell me and I'll try to sell you on my point.
I mean, it's part of the critical thinking that I think we're also losing a lot of. Like people just they're not having to use critical thinking anymore because you can just put it online and put it out there and you know, see what sticks. And I think that's not really helping our, you know, our communities and our conversations and our relationships.
That's one of the things we talked about in this podcast, because it's pretty long form, you know, an hour and a half out. A lot of people have told me, I don't know about if they told you, you know, you should shorten it. You should, you know, these are too long. I'm like, I kind of think about it and I go, well, the number one podcast in the world has like 200 million viewers and it's 3 hours long, sometimes longer. So there is evidence to support that it works. Yeah. And yet I understand what people are saying is like, if you would just give me 13 seconds to tell this story, I'll listen to it. Okay, well then we're just back to that little feedback loop that doesn't go anywhere because we don't get to know each other.
Right. Yeah. Right.
And so I think we've talked about making little short clips out of the long form video at some point as this podcast evolves, but I love just the conversation piece. I mean, that's why it's named Unscripted. It's like, I just want to have an authentic conversation. Yeah. With authenticity, to me, is the lost art of communication because of the bits and the bytes and the short, you know, the text and the email. And I mean, I have a lot of agents and I don't know if they all know this thing can work as a phone.
Yeah. It's like the one thing we don't use it for anymore.
Like, it's kind of funny, but you know, and again, that's why I joked and said I feel like I'm aging up all the time because I'm starting to say things that my dad used to say in a different way, but it's kind of the same messaging. Like, am I getting stuck in my ways and just unwilling to be adapting to new ideas? And so it's funny, you know, it's funny when you age up.
It definitely, but you know, I also feel like there's a bit of a pendulum shift, you know, or maybe I'm just hoping for that.
No, I always talk about that. I tell Russ, it's like, I swear,
we agree in that.
Everything is like a pendulum swings and it goes super far one direction and then it goes back in the middle and then it's a new topic, super far, goes back in the middle. Yeah.
We talk about old school. I have a philosophy. I don't know if we agree 100%, but I think you do. She
he
keeps
wants
me honest.
To always agree with him. Let's just start there.
You hold strong, Nicole.
She does not always agree with me. Quite often the opposite. She challenges my beautiful theories a lot. Because not all my theories I've found out through her.
You need that. Just to be clear, Chris and I call that complementary opposites.
Yeah, there you go. Very polite word. Say I don't agree with you. But what I do too in marketing, for example, is like if you wrote a handwritten note right now and you mailed it, it's hard to scale that. But I can tell you that we don't all get the bills in the mail anymore. Yeah, it's all on. A lot of it's online. We don't get the junk mail like we used to get. So you remember when it was you get the mailboxes all full of crap. Yeah. And so then email was invented, and we were like, oh, this is like, or this is the greatest thing ever. You know, this is so cool that and everybody read all their emails. Well, now how many emails do you get a day? Like 10,000. So now that online billing is taken over and everything's in the computer and in the web, if you get an actual letter, has a lot of weight. Yeah. If you got a letter today, would you open it? Like it was handwritten? Yeah. So to me, that's an example of old school is now the most powerful, potentially the most powerful, influential way to market. Yeah. And that like these kind of longer form conversations with a positive spin, I think are also kind of contagious. And to your point about the pendulum, I think anything that's not authentic is just kind of like you said, I'm just not going to go there.
Yeah.
It's just it doesn't mean anything. It's just smoke and mirrors.
Well, you do it for marketing. We do it, for our philanthropic efforts. I mean, we have ramped up our efforts. We try really hard. We write handwritten. I mean, you will get a handwritten thank you card from Brooke or from me, and those take time.
So you get it,
and
hard to scale.
But they, we have donors have told us over and over again like that those mean a lot to them,
100%.
and so. It would be so much easier to send an email, and make it automated, and you can like put in, the only thing you have to change is the name, but those just don't mean anything anymore.
No.
And we really do want, to donors and to know that we appreciate and we are thankful for and grateful for their generosity and their support. And so, we've been doing the same thing. I mean, the post office sees me regularly because we're buying stamps, and I feel like I'm the only one that buys stamps, but maybe not.
Yeah, we're getting there.
Yeah.
And one of the things we're trying to do, and we might actually talk to Rod Brooks. He's a marketing guru, right? So he was talking to me about some things to do together, and like a client, for us, it'd be like a client appreciation for the 52 weeks or however many guests we will have, and invite everybody to the community center to perhaps, do two things at once: say thank you and have a get together for everybody to say thank you and to talk about it, and then also to show everybody from all the different spheres of influence that the last year, every week we have a new guest every week. Who do we touch, and then how do we use that very diversified group of different spheres of influence to help spread a message about the community center? And that could be a kind of a win-win.
Yeah.
Something like that. We talked about that today. So.
I love that idea. Part of what we've always said is we want the community center to be a hub. A hub for people, a hub for activity, a hub for gathering, and what a great representation of that with just a bunch of different people that that you all have been able to put together, and from all different walks of life and all different kinds of levels of being here for a long time, not being here for a long time. We would be honored really to host something.
Thank you.
That.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
We got to get a hold of Donna's Pies now.
Yeah.
Donna, if you're listening, I need your number.
Yeah. You don't have Donna's number.
I don't know.
I will give you Donna's number.
Because I don't know if she's in town or if she went south or.
Yeah, I don't know what her schedule is. I'm not trying to say I know Donna that well, but I do have Donna's number for pies. That is in my phone.
We're going to need a lot of them.
Yeah.
So
A lot of.
We have some ideas.
Yeah, that would be fun. We've got a great space for parties, basically, for gatherings. So.
Well, let's shift gears a little bit. Now you have two kids? Is that right?
Yep.
Chris and a boy and a girl?
Chris and I have. We've got two. We've got a son, Christian, who is at Spokane Falls, doing the college thing, which again is crazy because I don't feel old enough to have a college kid. But yeah, Christian's doing great, and he's at Spokane Falls. This is his first year, so freshman year. Has a love for baseball and is gonna ride that out until he can't anymore. But he's getting his degree in business administration.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, cool.
There you go. Good for him.
Yeah.
And then you have a daughter?
And then we've got a daughter, Ariemi, which is a unique name. So Chris really loved the name Ariel, which is beautiful in Spanish and beautiful in English too. But in English, it's Ariel, and I could not get past the under the sea reference in my head whenever I heard the name Ariel. And so I said, Chris, I don't know, it's so under the sea, I can't. But I'd always loved the name Emmy, but he said it's just too short, Emmy and Cruz. And so he said, well, what if we debated this for the whole pregnancy. And Chris in his creative ways, he said, well, what if we combine both of those and we take the Ari from Ariel and the Emmy and we put them together, and so Ariemi is how we came up with her name.
I did notice when we did his podcast, he is a wordsmith.
He is.
Yeah.
Dissection.
Yes, he loves to.
He really does, and he is amazing at it.
Yes.
Like his brain just sees that,
Yeah.
and he's like, I can just make something with it. Like, you know what I mean?
We in my family, so anytime anyone's gonna have a baby or gets a new dog, or just needs a name, it's like Chris is the first one that they he gets the first text on the family group chat that's like, Chris, okay, here are the parameters, like, it's a boy, da 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 da, and he, in fact, so my nephew is pregnant, his wife is pregnant right now, and they met on a river and fishing. They both love to fish, and he and his wife met on a river, and so they met on a river, and they both love to fish, and they're having a boy. And so they were like, I don't know. They've been throwing out all these different names, and the group text goes out, and Chris is like, 2 seconds, and he goes, Real. And we're like, Real? Well, Real. Well, because she's American, my nephew's Hispanic, and so it's Spanish too. Rio in Spanish is river, and they met on a river, and so
cute.
So this child's name is going to be River. It's like Rio. So
there you go.
It's just so, but it's just this ability that he has.
Yeah.
And so,
I just want him on my Scrabble team.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
yeah, try playing Scrabble with him. We've had to put the Scrabble away sometimes because I'm like, that's not how you spell it, and then it's like, yes, it is. Dang it.
I'm combining languages.
Yes.
It works.
Spanglish.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah. No, he
And
has
a little slang thrown in there too.
Yeah, he has a really great. He's just got a great creative mind like that. And actually, our daughter Emmy is a lot like her dad. She's got this really creative mind as well. And Christian's a lot like me, like pragmatic, like a lot, thinks a lot. And so it's really been fun to see kind of how the kids have taken a little bit of each one of us, and how that's kind of shaped their lives and how they think, and what kind of shows up in each of the way that they kind of have developed in their in their young adulthood.
It's funny. I have two kids too. I don't know if you knew my kids, but my daughter is the oldest, and I think she's like 31, and she and I are a lot alike.
Yeah.
So we were doing this a lot.
Yeah.
And teenage girl, like I joke and say she got kidnapped by aliens when she was like 16.
Yeah.
Came back at about 19, but her body was there for like 3 years. But then the kid's mom was always like, Grace, we're very close, and they were like 10 and 5. We got divorced, but we raised them back and forth. My parents were a big part of it. But she goes, you and Taylor are just exactly alike. And then my son was much quieter, not the flamethrower my oldest was, and like my wife, or ex-wife, more just reserved, not timid, but just kind of like, go with the flow, and doesn't need to be the center of attention, where my daughter's like, and so it's funny.
Act first, think later.
I joke around. Mason went in the Marine Corps for 5 years, and I said, Mason, when you got out, I go, hey, did you say thanks to your sister for making you a good Marine? He's like, what are you talking about? I go, you're 5 years apart. You couldn't get a word in edgewise for most of your childhood. So, you were good with the drill sergeants.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so they're doing great. So.
Yeah. We're super proud of the kids. It's been really fun to watch. I mean, they're, it's like every parent, we've had our challenges. But they're really great. They're really great kids. I think another thing about moving here is it really gave us the opportunity as like a family unit to become very close, because we did, like I said, we didn't really have any immediate family here, and so our reliance on each other kind of like got elevated.
Yeah.
And that was such a beautiful thing that was unexpected. I mean, because I would have said we were already close before we moved here. But like our bond as the four of us just really, like, we really kind of locked in, and it was like, okay, we've got each other, like, we've got to figure it out. And it really made us, like, my daughter, something that has come out of it since we moved here is like, she really, she loves tradition. And there are these traditions that we've been carrying along, without really knowing, because they've been part of like my family's traditions, that that she really holds really close to her heart. And so now that we're here, we've had to decide, like, do we want to continue those traditions? And she's kind of like taken it, she's kind of taken the lead on, like, hey, no, like, these are our traditions and we're going to keep doing this. Like, awesome. I like this about it. And so it's been fun for her to be able to kind of like take that on and showcase that these things are important to her. I was like, I did not know that you were this big of a traditionalist. Like, these are, so yeah. So
is she in school? She's like an online school? Is that?
Yeah. So she's doing, she's a junior this year, and she's doing the online program through Chelan. She was a COVID middle schooler. So when COVID started, she was in elementary. She was a 6th grader, I think. In COVID, on the west side, they had middle school through 6th grade. So went to elementary school, and then COVID hit, and then didn't go to school until we moved here, and then it was 9th grade. It was high school. And so it was, I think between not having had kind of like that middle school exposure to then moving from kind of a big school to a very little school, and just that those years are, I think, really hard, especially I think for girls. She was just like, this is a lot, Mom. Like, I don't, and she did really well with online school. She was just like, why do I have to go in person? So we struggled. Chris and I honestly struggled with it a bit. We were like, no, you have to go in person. Like, it's part of the social, like, how are you gonna grow socially? And she was like,
online?
Yeah. I mean, she was like, I'll get a job. And I was like, well, okay. And sure enough, I mean, she did what, she said what she did. And she started working. She worked at Lakeview over the summer and made tons of friends and met tons of people. And that girl has no problem meeting people. So she's done just fine. In fact, we laugh because she's got a boyfriend that they've been together for 2 years now, and he lives in Rock Island. I mean, how she finds a boyfriend in Rock Island?
Online.
And he's a great kid, and they're really sweet together. But yeah, I mean, kids are just different now. Like, we're sometimes we can be closed-minded because we didn't experience things the same way they did, and so. We were like, you have to go to school. How are you going to meet people? And I mean, it's like, I can meet people other ways, Mom.
Well, we didn't grow up with the iPad in the crib.
Yeah, that's true. That's
we
true.
didn't have quite the skill sets they had. We had to develop them later.
She had to teach me how to do the whole like Snapchat thing with the map. And I mean, I'm like, how do you know? One time she said, oh, so-and-so's around here. And I was like, how do you know that? And she was like, well, the Snapchat map is like, tells me that where they're at. And I'm like, that's weird. Like, I don't know. I think that's against the law. Like, people, do they know? She's like, yeah, people turn their locations on so they know where other people are. I'm like, can you turn mine off? That's weird.
Not comfortable with that.
Yeah, that is true. For some reason, now it's like, oh yeah, I let everybody know my location. I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah.
And then you don't have to text me or call me and go, where are you? You just can see it.
Right. I know, which we debate about that too, because sometimes I'll text her and be like, where are you at? And she's like, Mom, you have my 365, you've got my Snapchat location, you know where I am. Why are you asking? And I'm like, I just need you to tell me. I don't want to go look. I just need you to tell me.
Yeah, right. Just answer the question.
I know, it's so funny. Russ and Kelly do this to me when I'm driving up to work. They're like, what time are you going to be here? And I'm like, you could literally just check my location. It tells you I'm 3 minutes away.
Right.
So I'm invading your privacy.
Yeah. I don't know. So anyway, so there she does online, doing great, and really enjoys that. She wants to be an entrepreneur like her dad, and so she's she's got a million and one ideas about how to have our own business. That's and awesome. So so she's gonna be.
You should watch I don't know if you've seen the one with Jason and Amy, that Amy Mack that owns Lakeview.
Yeah,
we had a podcast with them. So.
Yeah. I haven't had a chance to see that, but I saw that you had interviewed them.
Yeah, and she had some amazing retention, like 90% retention from.
She's a great. You know what, Amy?
And they have so many employees. I did not know that she had like 50 or something.
Yeah. Amy's, I mean, so much credit to her because she actually intentionally hires kids, at a young age, and really to develop kids at that age and to rely on them as your business model. I mean, so much credit to Amy and, you know, and just to what she does season after season after season, and to be successful and, you know, and to just pour into kids that age. And she's very clear. I mean, like I said, Amy worked there. And so I absolutely know how she lays it out for them. And it's very clear of like what her expectations are, what, you know, she provides, what they provide, what happens when you don't follow these rules. And it's just such a great way for kids to, learn some basic, you know, like just some basic skill sets.
It was a great podcast.
Yeah.
We had it right there at Lakeview on a picnic
just
table.
So fun. Yeah.
Crazy.
That's awesome.
And that's the third person in their family. Her dad started it, dad and mom, and then her brother.
Wow. Yeah.
And then she bought it from her brother. So it's cool to have that level of, speaking of tradition, to have something like that. That's kind of an iconic restaurant.
Stay in the family.
Those are neat, you know.
Yeah.
I always said
cool.
if we wanted a distraction, we'd just say we were opening McDonald's and drive in. And then we get the whole storm going over there, and then we go there.
Well, you know what's funny is I remember when Walmart was like the big topic. I mean, I don't. Maybe we shouldn't talk about that. But I just remember when Walmart was the big. You know, like
you can't put it in. No, it's going to ruin everything.
Look where we're at right now. This was a giant.
It is like the best Walmart though in this whole state. I swear.
And I don't know. Again, this is where Maribel, like protective Maribel, comes in, because I start to get a little protective. I'm like, well, it depends. Like, who are we? Like, what, and when, and you know. And so, I mean, I totally agree. We have the best Walmart. I have friends that, you know, live in Wenatchee, you know, and sometimes will come. And so sometimes I think, because they'll go to their Walmart and I'll be like, your Walmart does not compare to our Walmart.
I
would drive up here just for this Walmart.
It's a good example of, I remember that too. I mean, they were bake sales to get lawyers to fight Walmart. I mean, there was stuff like, you guys don't know who you're dealing with. This is a big company. But then they go to work there. Or then they shop there. I mean, so it's the same people that are uncomfortable with growth. Often, once it's over and that storm settles, it's embraced. This Sunset Marina was a great example. You know, you'd have thought we were contaminating the lake permanently at the time when I was involved in the sales and marketing of this. And for the first 2 years, it was just a parking lot. So I was selling the vision, and I think we had to get to 80 sales before they build it. And there's a lot of risk return there, you know, a lot of faith. I had to, you know, I had a lot of time and if I didn't get paid unless I closed. So, but then city council meetings, community gatherings, burning torches, pitchforks, you name it. And then it's built, and then it all goes away, and everybody's like, that's pretty cool. That's kind of a neat deal.
Oh, I can have a party in there?
Yeah, I can have a party, have a wedding. I got married here. So that's the kind of stuff that I think I say it a lot, but the reality is, all change is messy.
Yeah.
And all change has multiple sides and multiple opinions, and you're not going to please all the people all the time, that's for sure. Yeah. And then when we look back in history, I think we often have this theory that it was smooth, it was easy, and there wasn't the challenges that we're facing today. That was not like that. No, it's never easy. I don't know of anything new in anywhere that is easy. Yeah. There's going to be debate. There's going to be challenges. There's going to be setbacks. There's going to be curveballs. But when it's all said and done, it's usually accepted, and we move on. And usually there's some positives to it. Maybe not for everybody. That's fair too. You know, it's okay if you don't like Walmart. That's okay. You know, but if you got a job because of Walmart and you can feed your kids and you can still live in the hometown that you grew up in because there's a job that'll pay you. I know a lot of my friends work at Walmart, and they're super happy to work there because they wouldn't be able to live here if they didn't have that job. Okay. So there's two sides to all this stuff, or three, right? Like it's just the way of the world, right? We can't be perfect. Yep. So just funny how most things work out. Yeah.
And I agree. I mean, Chris and I often say, no pain, no gain.
Yep.
And I think maybe the older we get, or the sooner you learn that truth, that the easier you stop trying to fight the pain and you start accepting it. And pain, you know, I mean, that's kind of, that might be too harsh, but when you start kind of embracing the difficult parts of life, of situations, of circumstances, I think the easier it is to get through them, and more so because on the other side of them usually comes that that hindsight of like, oh man, if I hadn't gone through that, I couldn't appreciate
100%.
Whatever it is that now is so beautiful.
100%. Yeah, I always say you win or you win or you learn.
Yeah.
It's hard to win and learn at the same time. Sometimes you can, but usually you'll learn more when you lose or when you go through some difficulties.
Yeah.
And at least appreciate it more by the time you're done on the other side. So, well, Maribel, this has been fun.
Yeah, you and Chris are amazing little humans.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
and
you.
you're a great example of you guys recently moved here and you've added so much to the community.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So
yeah, we feel super honored to be here. Super honored to be contributing to the community. It's really been our privilege, and want to just continue to pour into what we're doing, and here in our business, at the community center, as individuals, as like members of the community, in whatever form and fashion that takes, and just in everything that we do. And so, yeah, we're really, really excited, really grateful to be here.
Well,
so
I'm humble that you came, and I'm glad to get to know you a little better. And I
Thank you.
look forward to seeing you around town. I just bought a house in Manson on the 30th. So
all right.
my son bought a house next to me, and so we're
Yay! You're starting the compound. Hector and I were just talking about that. Like, our dream is to buy a piece of land and to just start building like little little compounds, so all of our family can live on it.
Yeah, it's really nostalgic. It's like a mile from where I grew up.
Okay.
I grew up in a little 10-acre apple orchard down just past Blueberry Hills, and so like just right down the road, I was able to. It's currently an orchard, and it had a couple houses on it, so we were able to buy them side by side. And we're both ecstatic, and it's pretty. I didn't think it'd happen. Dreams come true sometimes. I didn't think we'd ever get back there, but it worked out. But anyway, thanks for coming.
Yes, nice to meet you both.
By the way, according to me, you're a local.
Well, thank you.
According to Russ, she's a local. All right, we're signing off from Small Towns Unscripted. Thank you.